Okay, this is a cheeky 4 snare drum. So this one's going to start with the tenors, and when the tenors start playing, we play stick clicks. Okay, so that's how you end it, so let's talk about it. You got this intro? And then the whole drum line goes boom, 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 boom at the end of the intro, and the snare drum plays this. For that part, so you got so that's the intro up to that point, and then when the snares come in for their part, for the rest of the intro, it's this. Okay, so what this is a roll, and then 2 singles, so diddle, diddle, single, single. And then you do that again, and then 4 diddles and 4 singles. So, all together. And then everything I just played there, you do it all again. So if we do the whole intro kind of slow, this is what you got. Okay, so that's the whole intro. Okay, here's the next part. And that stick click at the end is for time, it's important. So, let's learn that part. This is a cadence that's definitely a right hand lead kind of cadence. Everything you play with all these faster notes starts with the right hand. Okay, notice at the end I'm using 2 rights. And then here's the next segment. So you're doing a triplet accent pattern here. Alternating accents. Digga, digga, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Okay, so all that much together. That again. repeat everything I just did. But the one thing that's different is it stops a little earlier, and then when you start it, you do a little roll into the first note. So what we just did was this. And then when we started that, we started with a single accent. But when we go to repeat it, you're going to pick up into it with a 5-stroke roll. Okay? Okay? So here's the second half of that segment. Remember, it starts a little short. I'll do that again. So if I play all that together for this next part. Okay, I'm going to do that again. So if you missed that, just rewind the video and look at it again. Here's the next part. And that's all that is, but you go between the snare and the rim, and that might be kind of complicated, so here's what you're doing. Let's learn that part first. Right, left, left. Okay? A little faster. And then you play that same triplet accent pattern we did earlier. And then you do it again. And then the shorter accent pattern. So that whole segment together. All that a little faster. Okay, so here's what you need to know. There's an intro. We already went over that. And then there's part 1, and then there's part 2. We just finished part 2 here. So I'm going to play part 1 again. That's part 1. Here's part 2. So what you're going to do is play the intro, and then part 1, and then part 2. And then what you do next is you go back to part 1, and then you play part 2. And then go back to part 1, and then part 2. So you're going to play the intro alone by itself, and then part 1, part 2, part 1, part 2. And then when it's over, you finish part 2, and then you got one note at the end. So here's part 1. Part 2. And then you go back to part 1. And you just keep going back and forth and back and forth.